Hey, hi everyone, welcome back to Great Northern Cascade Division N Scale. My name's Ian. I'm going to have a little bit of a diversion on the channel for the next couple of weeks or so. One, because I'm probably not going to do a whole lot on the layout at the moment, and two, because I have a bunch of other videos that I need to be processing from my trip to Japan. So I was in Japan for about a week or so. I got back yesterday, so I'm a little bit jet lagged, but not too bad for having been in the air for 13 hours and landing 2 hours before I took off, basically. But had an awesome time in Japan, really did. And I got a lot of videos whilst I was out there. So I have posted a few YouTube shorts along the way whilst I was out there, kind of condensed it down to 30 seconds, 40 seconds or so, just of some fun little things. But I do have some much longer video clips to kind of put together. I had a really good time hanging out. I think it was around Napori Station. They have a bridge that I'm completely forgetting the name of now. And I spent a good hour or so hanging out there, watching a bunch of trains. It's right over the main tracks as they come into the station. And so you had a bunch of commuter traffic that was coming in, some local trains that were coming in. You had a bunch of the Shinkansen that were coming in and out as well. So that was fun. Did also find a really good place just across from, just south of Tokyo Station. So that's the main station in Tokyo, obviously, Tokyo Station. But it was elevated up on the third floor, and so you're basically at eye level of where the Tokaido Shinkansen would head south down towards Shinosaka. And so I've got some videos of those, the mix of N700A and 700S Shinkansen. That was really cool. And then when I was down in Kyoto, went to the Kyoto Railway Museum. So the museum itself was bananas. It was way more than I was expecting, really. I thought, okay, we'll go there for a couple of hours and then we'll get lunch and then we'll head out and look at some other stuff. I was there for 4 hours and still kind of felt that was a little bit rushed. But they've got some good videos moving around the station. They have an awesome roundhouse outside. Almost every single bay in the roundhouse, and it was I don't know, 15-bay roundhouse. Almost every single bay was full of steam trains, some in working conditions, some are just on display, some you can get into the cabs for, and they even had like walkways going between 3 or 4 of the different cabs. Just an awesome place all around, but they also then had a second floor cafe that had big glass-sided windows that looks out onto the main line just to the west of Kyoto Station. And then they had a third floor outside viewing area. And so I've got a bunch of videos. I had a nice zoom lens on the camera to kind of pull in a whole bunch of video of trains moving around, mixed freight trains again, local commuter trains, some of the Shinkansen, and just awesome some of the shots. So over the next week or two, I kind of need to go through some of that. The purpose of the trip was not just trains, so I do have a bunch of just regular photos to work through too. But I'm probably not going to be down in the basement doing all that much on Great Northern layout itself. But what I do have in front of me, it's not meant to be a show off, it's not meant to be a brag or anything like that, but I did get 1 or 2 trains whilst I was out there. I went to a few different model stores, and so I wanted to kind of talk about that experience and some of the different stores that I went to. There's some good videos on YouTube that kind of somewhat do secret filming inside the stores, because you're not typically meant to video and do photos inside the stores. Most of them had no photo and video policy. So I didn't do anything inside the stores other than the Kato Hobby Center in Tokyo. I probably should have done it in Kyoto as well, because the guys there were really friendly, but I do have one of the leaflets and I did buy a couple of trains from them. But I kind of wanted to go through some of the trains that I bought, because pretty much every train that I bought was a train that I rode on or was a train that I saw. And so that was kind of the goal. There were other trains, a lot of the more trains that I could have bought, really. I think I went on 12 or 13 different types of trains, and some of those I went on multiple times. So yeah, in this video I want to kind of go over some of that. I also want to talk a little bit about just riding the trains in general. So this video may well end up a really long, rambling video. You may well have absolutely no interest in this. If you just want to look at the Great Northern stuff, that's fine. I'm not expecting that this video is going to get thousands of views like the other ones do, but Japanese trains have always fascinated me ever since I was a kid, and just Japan in general has always fascinated me since I was a kid. And so finally getting out there, getting to see some of those trains, getting to ride on some of those trains was really cool. So starting out, they have a few different types of trains, like classes of trains that you can ride on, or more classes of fare, I suppose. Different tickets that you can buy, and it is important to kind of understand some of that. So I'm not an expert on any of this Japanese rail stuff. There's a bunch of resources online, but this is just kind of going over my experience. Is that anything that would be a limited express typically has a separate fare, a separate ticket that you have to purchase for it. And same with the Shinkansen, a separate ticket that you need to get. But then there's three different classes of trains beneath that. There's local, Rapid Express, and there's something else that I can't remember. They're basically all the same fare, the same price of the ticket. It just depends on how many stops that you do. So the local basically stops on every stop along the way that it would do. Rapid Express stops at fewer, and then there's another one I think that sits in the middle. The Limited Express, the first one where you have to have an additional ticket on top of that base fare, stops at even fewer stations than the Rapid Express would do. And then the Shinkansen is kind of the top of the line. Even with the Shinkansen, at least on the Tokaido Shinkansen that runs between Tokyo and Shinosaka, there's then 3 different fares on the Shinkansen. There's Nozomi, which I rode on, which again is like that express train. It made 2 stops between Tokyo and Kyoto, one in Yokohama and one in Nagano. Nagoya, sorry. And that is a pretty cool experience. That thing gets moving. It was touching 180 miles an hour. We sat in the green car for that. And then they have like a middle tier, I can't remember, Akari. There's 2 different types below. One of them makes a few more stops, and then kind of the bottom tier of the Shinkansen makes even more stops. Now that equates to, depending on the route you were doing, an extra 15 minutes, an extra 25 minutes, something like that. But if you are going to Japan, you pay attention to the different fares of tickets that you might need. Pay attention to how you reserve some of those seats. I didn't get the Japan Rail Pass. Now, part of that is the price was going up right around now. I think I would have been able to squeak in and get it before the price went up. Used to be everyone said, get the Japan Rail Pass, it'll save you a bunch of money. I did the math and it probably wouldn't have done. I think I probably came out a few dollars ahead by not buying one. One of the limitations that I saw on the Japan Rail Pass, specifically on the Shinkansen, was you can't ride the Nozomi service, that that express service that makes the fewest number of stops. You're not allowed to ride on that unless you buy an additional fare ticket. And I don't know exactly what it would have been, but the difference between a base fare ticket and a limited express ticket was a few dollars, $10 maybe, if that at the most, probably not even $10. $6 or $7. On the Shinkansen, it would have been more. But the Japan Rail Pass doesn't let you do that Nozomi service Shinkansen. So when you see some of the videos, and when I talk about some of that, I had paid for that additional Nozomi service, that express service. Japan Rail Pass doesn't let you do that. The other part that I had seen from like kind of overhearing other people talking and kind of seeing people at the train stations was the Japan Rail Pass is like a paper-based thing. It doesn't seem like it's any kind of card, which we're going to get to in a minute. It's just a paper-based thing, and so when you say, okay, I want to reserve a seat on one of these trains that I'm going to go on, you have to go into the ticket office and you kind of have to give the ticket agent the information that you want, and then they can issue that for you. Or if you want to go and do one of the limited express trains, same thing. You got to go in with this paper-based Japan Rail Pass, talk to a ticket agent, and get it over. Now, I have very limited Japanese language skills. I did learn some before I went, and I was able to get by. And I found that having at least basic Japanese helped a lot in terms of I wasn't walking into a restaurant or a train station, the ticket agent, something like that, and immediately starting to speak English to them. But again, I thought that the Japan Rail Pass was maybe a little bit limited, especially when you were around Tokyo, and you would be going into the ticket office quite a bit. And then, like I said, right around now, middle of October, end of October, the price is going up quite substantially on the Japan Rail Pass. So again, do the math and see how much you're going to be using. What I would recommend would be getting one of these IC cards. So this is a Passmo card. The other main type of card that I saw was Suica card. And both of them, as far as I know, are functioning the same. They're just slightly different companies. It's got a little integrated circuit, little chip inside of it. And so at the moment, you can really only get these from the airport. Again, middle of October 2023. You only get these at the airport and a couple of the main train stations. I think Tokyo Station had it. This is the Pasmo Passport card, so it's only available for tourists. And again, it's just because of a current shortage with the little chips that go inside of them. But it's basically a tap to pay kind of card. So a lot of debit cards and credit cards, at least in the US and in the UK, have this where rather than having to swipe your card or anything, you can just tap to pay. So Oyster card on the London Underground, I forget what it is on the New York subway, there's something similar where if you're going to be traveling a lot, you can get these cards. As a tourist, this was incredible because I didn't have to worry about what ticket to buy. I didn't have to go and look at a big map and try and figure out, okay, I'm going from this station to this station, and so it's going to be 180 yen. And then when you would get to the ticket gate and scan out, they all had then fare adjustment machines where if you had the wrong fare ticket, then you had to go to this adjustment machine, put your ticket in and pay the extra 40 yen difference. Now, when I say 180 yen, it's still a little over $1 US, like middle October 2023. Yes, overall it was pretty cheap, but just the complexity was completely removed by having this Pasmo card. You start out with 1,500 yen, which is about 10 US dollars, and then you can recharge it in that additional 1,000 yen increments. And so I think I ended up putting about an additional 6,000 yen onto this. So in total, I went through about 7,000 yen, which is $45, $46, something like that. But that was an entire week of traveling around. You can use this on Tokyo subway. I used it on Kyoto subway. I used it on the Osaka subway. I used it on the local Japan Rail lines. I used it on the Kintetsu lines in Kyoto. Pretty much anywhere will take this. The buses would take this as well. Vending machines on the street would take this. Convenience stores like 7-Eleven, Family Mart, Lawson Family Stores would all take this. So just for the travel aspect alone, I would go with that over Japan Rail Pass for the travel that we were doing anyway. The other part, when I then came to Shinkansen, I reach over and try and find my phone. I had an app that I used. It's the official app, EX, Smart EX. And that's what you use to be able to make ticket reservations online for the Shinkansen. And by default, what it'll end up doing is showing you a QR code. And the instructions then say, okay, when you're ready to go up to 7 days in advance, scan this QR code at the ticket machine and then you'll be able to get your ticket. That's not actually the case, and I don't know if it's lost in translation from Japanese to English. You just go straight to the actual ticket gate, and you just scan that QR code, and then what will pop out is an actual paper-based ticket for you. Now, I never actually needed this. No one checked this when I was on the train. There were conductors that were moving through, but they seemed to have a little digital pad with them, and because it was reserved seats where I was at, I was in the right seat, and so they just assumed, okay, I'm the right passenger. There hasn't been a complaint. So that did throw me because I did try 2 or 3 different ticket machines, couldn't get the QR code to work. Then I actually went into the ticket booth and asked the people there at the counter, and they were just like, no, you just have to go and scan the QR code. So I would certainly recommend booking them online. I believe the seat reservations are free. There's no charge. And again, even if you had the Japan Rail Pass, there's no charge for do a seat reservation. But it meant you weren't then having to rush and try and fight on to get the seat that you wanted. You can sit on the right side to see Mount Fuji or whatever. But they do have unreserved cars as well on some of the services, so if you didn't do a reservation, you would be fine. But yeah, the QR code threw me for a loop from the smartphone. Just scan that straight at the ticket counter, and then again, when you leave, I thought, okay, you've given me a paper-based ticket. So when I went to then get off and go through the ticket gate on the other side, I went to scan this ticket, wouldn't accept it, have to load up the QR code again. But okay. And so I think the only time I actually bought a ticket for real and had to deal with someone in the Japan Rail ticket counters was I wanted to buy a limited express for one of these trains, the Thunderbird train, which is a 683 series train. I wanted to ride that from Kyoto down to Osaka. I wanted to be in the green car. And the green car across the whole network seems to be like the first class seats. So typically there's fewer seats in the cars rather than 3 seats across. It's 2 seats across, and they're a little bit bigger, a little bit more room. And I thought, well, I'm nice, I may as well do it. I really wanted to ride in a Thunderbird. We'll get into that a little bit more. And so I did get a separate ticket. So that's what a limited express ticket looks like. And again, I hadn't been exactly sure what happens here. So you can do it online through the Japan Rail website. I did this a couple of places actually, because I also went from Kyoto down to Nara, where I had to purchase a limited express ticket. And what I found was you get this limited express ticket, which basically just means I have paid the additional fee for a limited express train. I do have a seat reservation. It has the car, it has your seat number on it. Again, no one asked me for this on the Thunderbird. No one asked me for this on the Nara Vista View car. And you didn't then scan this in and out. And I was confused, do I scan this or not? And no, I just scanned the Passmo card. The limited express ticket is an additional fee that you pay. Your base fare comes from the Passmo card. And again, I couldn't find any good information on how you handle that. So in the future, I know now, and kind of sharing with you what I had learned, if you are going to do a limited express train, when you have your separate ticket, you still can then just scan in and out the base fare on the Passmo card. And for some kind of reference, I think on the Thunderbird, it was it was an additional 1,300 yen, which is about $8 US on the limited express seat from Kyoto down to Osaka, which is about a 25-minute ride. It was a little pricey, but I wanted to sit in the first class seats, and it was, didn't stop at all. And then the base fare was about 700 yen, which would be about $4.50, something like that. So if you didn't want to go on the Thunderbird, the base fare was relatively cheap. And then that additional limited express ticket then let me ride on the Thunderbird. But the scanning in and out of the ticket gate, I just used the Passmo card. No one cared about that limited express ticket. The same thing, the conductors had some kind of small handheld digital device that indicated what seats people should be sitting in, and so no one ever questioned me on it. Which is good, because I don't know how I would have tried to explain it. Excuse me, in general, all the trains were awesome, very smooth, very punctual. I did almost everything through Google Maps to figure out directions on things, even if I somewhat knew where I was going, because Google Maps ties in with real-time train information. There are local apps that you can get that can do this. There are some other apps that you can get. But when I looked at them, I found that Google Maps was just as accurate and was pulling in the exact same information. And so if it says your train will leave at 11:57 a.m. from platform 3, it will leave at 11:57 from platform 3. And it would show real-time information when you are on the train as well. So it says, hey, you're going to be getting off in 6 stops. It will show you the stops, and it will kind of move along the icon within Google Maps to show you what stop's coming up next. It would also then tell you what exit to get in and out of at a station. And some of the stations blew me away. I've traveled fairly extensively across the UK, France, Germany, Italy on trains. And a train station in pretty much all of those countries is somewhere where you get the train. And obviously, and there'll be 1 or 2 small newsagent stores. There'll maybe be some places where you can get some takeout food or a small little sit-down area. Big train stations in Japan are like a whole event. Tokyo station was huge. Multiple different levels. Kyoto station, huge, multiple different levels. 2 or 3 different levels for the trains. Subway was then beneath it. There was then 2 stories beneath that had food and shopping and tourist stuff in it. And then Kyoto station and Osaka station, Shin Osaka, and the other one in Osaka that I'm completely forgetting the name on, basically had shopping malls then built on top of them. So in Kyoto there was like a 9 or 10 story shopping mall basically built on top of it that had a hotel in it, that had restaurants, that had office space, that had conference rooms. It just huge things, and it kind of makes sense, and it was really actually good for us, and that we could get some food and drink as we were passing through. There was some nights where we would come back and it's just like, what, these restaurants were pretty good. Like, there wasn't a lot of chain restaurant food. It was a lot of small, just independent restaurants. You know, I was expecting the comparison to like airport food, where it's really not that good, and maybe I'm not fancy enough to really get, you know, high quality Japanese cuisine food. I thought that the food in most cases was pretty good. The worst food I actually had was at the government building in Shinjuku. Pretty much everything that was at a train station I thought was pretty good. So yeah, plenty of food options and drink options available at the stations. It was cool getting what's called Ekiban. Eki is station, train station in Japanese, and then ban is short for bento, bento box, which is like a box lunch that's you can get in Japan fairly commonly. So Ekiban is a box lunch that you get at a train station. No eating and drinking on the normal trains, even the Limited Express trains seems like it was frowned on. But the Shinkansen, absolutely, that's where you do it. So you know, when we rode the Shinkansen, we got to have our little Ekiban. And they also got some ice cream as well. That was meant to be a big thing right in the Shinkansen. Again, mid-October 2023, maybe I was lucky, they still had the food cart service. From what I understand, starting November 1st, that food cart service is going away. Now, I think there is still a restaurant car option, so you might be able to go and get food from there, and I think maybe it would be a seasonal demand thing. I don't know if Japan Rail have made up their mind. But yeah, getting the ice cream on the Shinkansen was pretty cool. We got very lucky on the train ride from Tokyo down to Kyoto. We got to see Mount Fuji, which isn't always a common thing, and coming back, even though it was a very nice day, the top of Mount Fuji was covered in clouds. So I do have video of the whole ride from Shinagawa Station, which is just south of Tokyo Station. That was where we got on because I thought it was easier than trying to fight Tokyo Station, and I think it was probably the right decision. So I've got video of the whole Shinkansen ride from Shinagawa out to Kyoto Station. I think I have about 30 seconds where it turns out if you do 4K video on a GoPro for over an hour, it starts to overheat. The battery gets a little bit hot, so I have about 30 seconds where I had to do a quick Formula One pit crew change of the batteries to put in a cooler battery and a fresher battery for it. Yeah, that was an awesome ride. That was fun, and overall, just yeah, everything was on time. Everything was clean, very quiet, very respectful. The platforms are very neatly laid out. It shows where the doors are going to open and what the car number will be, what the door number of the car will be even. And so again, if you have you know, something like a Limited Express ticket that says you have a reserved seat in this car and these are your seats, so the same with the Shinkansen. On the platform itself, it will tell you this is the car number that it's going to be. So it makes it very easy to get in and out. Again, it was wild compared to all my experience I've had across Europe, where you know everyone just kind of crowds a platform, and then the train pulls up and it'll stop in about the same place, but you don't know exactly where the doors are going to be, and then everyone's fighting for the doors. This was all very, very neat and orderly. Anytime there was an opportunity to form a neat and orderly line, people would do so. So my mind worked great with this because I like things to be kind of neatly laid out, and so I loved riding the trains. It was great seeing all the different neighborhoods that we moved through, the differences between Tokyo versus Kyoto versus Osaka versus Nara and places like that. So yeah, enough of my rambling. Onto some of the trends. So I'm going to start out kind of moving through the trend stores, I guess. I think that's probably a good way to group them. So I went to the Kato Hobby Center, which is kind of the main headquarters of Kato, just to the west of Tokyo. Fun train ride. I took, I think it was the Yamanote line out to Shinjuku, and then I completely forget what the actual subway line was. It went from Shinjuku, it was about 6 stops or 7 stops out to the station, which I would butcher the name. I know what it's called, but I'll butcher the name, so I'm not gonna try it. And that was a nice ride. Interesting, when you get out there, you're no longer in tourist Tokyo, which I thought was great. I found another couple of other non-tourist Tokyo areas to be in. So the walk, it's about a 10-minute walk, maybe it's not even that, from the subway station. Really easy to find, Kato Hobby Center, Tokyo. Nice neighborhood to walk through. and getting there was fun. As soon as you come off the subway, there's a big advertisement poster up for the Carter Hobby Center, and as you walk down the street, you can see the big red streetcar that they have outside the building as well. So it just kind of builds up this excitement, and it was like being in Disneyland. I was texting Rich the whole time and sending him photos the whole time. Very cool. I've got a whole video on Carter Hobby Center. But yeah, one of the trends that I got there was this Thunderbird, the 683. And the 683 series it's fun. It's got kind of a very blunt nose and a very high cab. And I think it's because it makes it easier to couple them together, although I don't think you can actually walk between the two when they do that. But they were just very fun trends. They run from Osaka up to, I forget where, up on the north coast. And even though I only went from Kyoto to Osaka, very, very nice ride, very smooth. Not as fast as the Shinkansen, but in the green cars, very smooth, very quiet. Again, perfectly on time. And I saw a number of the Thunderbird trends move around these 683s, and I thought that was really, really cool. So I'm going to kind of mix in video of some of this running, even though right now this is a massive trends. I am going to set up a quick little loop of Kato track. And all of these trends are DC powered, they're not DCC, which is why they're not going on the main Great Northern layout right now. And I'm a little torn as to whether I'm going to put DCC chips in all of these, or if I'm going to keep them Japanese style DC. And then in terms of sound, I might look at the Kato Soundbox, which in the US it's a little bit limited in what they have the sound cards for. At the Kato Hobby Center and a number of the other hobby centers, they have a whole bunch of sound cards for almost all of these trends. So I'm going to splice in video that I'm going to do in the future here of these different trends running. So let's have a look at the Thunderbird, the 683 4000 series. Alright, a couple of other ones that I then got at the Kato Hobby Center was the expansion set for the Nozomi that I got, the N700S. And so inside the binder, I slide this out the way, it's a 4-car edition. And kind of nicely, they also have some of the cutouts because at another store I had already gotten the N700S. So this is just a 4-car expansion set, but I like that it kind of comes with the sleeve where it's got the cutouts. And so what I'll do is take the cutouts out and move it from the other box, and then I'll have an 8-car train. Kato do then have an additional 8-car expansion to this, which then brings you up to the full 16-car train. And I gotta tell you, those things are, it's a trip seeing the full 16 cars running. Again, when I compare it to what I've seen in Europe, where it would be 8 cars, 9 cars, something like that, seeing a full 16 car running was pretty cool. So I got that from Kato Hobby Center, and then I also got a car expansion set for the E7 series Shinkansen. And if you can't see where this is going, I also got an E7 Shinkansen from another store. But we'll focus now on Kato, and then I'll go into this other hobby store where I got the other 2 Shinkansen, and then we'll see some running videos. So the E7 was a 3-car expansion set, and that then goes with the 3-car starter set on the E7. That would then give you a 6-car train, and then they make I believe it's a 4-car expansion set, because the full E7 Shinkansen was then 10 cars rather than 16 cars. And the different series of Shinkansen is just the different lines that they would run on. Japan Central, Japan West, Japan East, and different routes that they would take. So not all of these trains run on all the same lines, and so that's why different types of the Shinkansen for the different routes that they're going over, the different terrain that they're going to be going through, different types of tunnels and things like that. But the same thing, it's got the cutouts within the sleeve, And so what I'll do is take out the 3 cars from the box, and I'll put them in here to keep them all together. So I also really like this kind of binder approach that Kato have for the passenger cars. That's a slick idea. So that was what I got at Hobby Center Kato. I did also get a bunch of different leaflets that they had kind of hanging out. So had a bunch of these ones. That was kind of just an overview of Hobby Center Kato. I also then got one that was detailing the various different Shinkansen, and then inside, obviously trying to sell you a bunch of stuff. I really wanted to get some of the actual layout stuff. I just wouldn't have had room in the suitcase for it. Yeah, this was more trying to sell stuff. Some of the stuff was also then Kato Hobby Center exclusives that they had. So that was kind of neat, and then how you can get in touch with them. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, there'll be another video coming on the Kato Hobby Center that kind of gives an overview of all of that, because they had some really cool displays. They had a really big N scale layout, and then they had a slightly smaller HO scale layout. And then upstairs, they also then had a layout that you could go and run your own trends on. So downstairs was a display layout. So it was very high quality, very well done scenery wise, and they had some trends that were just running on a different line. Upstairs they had another layout, still very nicely put together, but wasn't the primary visual display layout. And so you could rent different tracks. Basically each track was on its own DC power, and I think they had 4, 6, 8 maybe different stations. I can't remember. And it was fairly cheap. I forget exactly how much it was, either 500 yen or 1,000 yen for 30 minutes maybe, which is, you know, $4 to $7 US. And I actually saw this in a couple of the Pop and Data hobby stores, which we'll get to in a minute. And so it seems somewhat common that because you'd be a little bit more space constrained maybe in a Japanese apartment, you couldn't have room for a very large layout, so you maybe just have a little small layout that you could run. Maybe you do some T-Track modules or something like that, but then hobby stores would have much larger layouts. So I think the one at the Kato Hobby Center upstairs was probably 12 feet wide by 25 feet long, maybe, might have even been a little bit bigger. Very nicely done, and so I thought that was a cool thing to do. Again, if I had had more time, I would have been very tempted to bust out a couple of the trends that I had bought, or when I was at Pop and Data in Akihabara, I would have been very tempted to bust out some of the trends and run them, but yeah, I didn't have more time. But let's look at a couple of the Shinkansen so that we can then move on to some running shots. So I got the N700S, which is runs on the Tokaido line between Tokyo and Kyoto, and then I got the E7 series, which is what runs north out of Tokyo Station, and I got some video of the E7 series as they were running out when I was at Napori Station overlooking the bridge. So let's have a look at these two different Shinkansen running with those expansion cars, and then we'll talk about the hobby store where I got these ones from. Alright, so those two Shinkansen and these next three I got from, I even need to double check this one. This was Hobbyland Pochi. This is in the Akihabara district. So the Akihabara district, and again, I apologize, I'm probably butchering names on this. The Akihabara district is where there's kind of a lot of different electronic stores, hobby stores, video game stores, anime, stuff like that. It's kind of wild with all the big electronic displays and signs and lights and stuff outside the buildings. I didn't expect that they would have big video advertisement boards that also played a lot of loud music, a little obnoxious music maybe. But the whole area was actually really cool, and I could totally see, being kind of a bit of a nerd, that if you wanted some kind of cable or adapter or connector or just electronic components to build your own circuits, there was just store after store where they just had spools of cable and little bins of all the different electronic components that you could think of. On top of then hobby stores, model train stores, video game stores, all kinds of stuff like that. You could spend an entire day wandering around there. I hit up 3 or 4 of the main stores that were there. Hobbyland Pochi was, I wouldn't say one of the best, but they had the best selection of the trends that I was looking for. So Hobbyland Pochi was very good. Pop and Data was actually really good as well. And now I'm mixed up actually. I'm mixed up. These 2 Shinkansen I got from Hobbyland Pochi. Scratch that. Pop and Data was where I got the other 2 Shinkansen and these next trends. There was so many trend stores. I'm trying to keep them all in line. But Hobbyland Pochi had a good selection of trends. But I ended up in Pop and Data, which is why I got the other ones. But then I went back to Hobbyland Pochi to get these 2. But let's focus on Pop and Data, which is kind of the one that would be furthest, 10-minute walk rather than a 5-minute walk from the Akihabara station. I got the Nozomi N700 and I got the E7 series Shinkansen. I also then got this 4-car set. It is a E235, and this one specifically, the coloring for it is for the Yamanote line. Yamanote line is one of the Japan rail lines that runs somewhat north-south through Tokyo, and this is also why I recommend like a Passmo card or a Suica card over just getting something like a 24-hour or 48-hour Tokyo subway pass, in that while the Tokyo subway itself is very extensive, there are then a bunch of other lines that you can run on, one of which is the Yamanote line. We'll see another one in about 2 minutes. This was really cool. I rode this quite a few times as we were moving around Tokyo. I can't remember which one I took. I think I took this one from Akihabara down to Tokyo Station. The other one I think I took from Napori into Akihabara. So this one was really cool. I like the look of it as well with the green on it, and I got quite a few videos of this moving around when I was up at Napori. So let's have a look at this one now, moving around, 4-car set, E235. Alright, and this one, similar, this is a 233 rather than 235. This one is the Ueno Tokyo line, which again somewhat is north-south through Tokyo. These ones are interesting, a little hard to see what's in the box. We'll see in the video in a minute or so. You had basically double-decker cars, 2 cars that will be running on it. I'm doing some quick math. I think it was a 12-car train in total, and the Yamanote line was 10 cars total. So the Ueno Tokyo line, a little bit longer of a train, and I did like those kind of double-decker. I didn't get to ride in that car. I didn't know how to get aligned on the platform correct way for it, and I can't remember if I went from Napori down to Akihabara or Akihabara down to Tokyo, but it was basically like 1 or 2 stops, and there's just not enough time to then walk through the train to try and find the right car to get into. But this was cool. Again, I like the look of it. I rode on this one, and I got quite a few videos of this one when I was up on the bridge over at Napori Station as well. So this is the 233, the Ueno Tokyo line. Again, it was another one of the Japan Rail lines, I think. Can't remember. No, this was actually one of the Tokyo subway ones, I think. Again, not an expert on Japan Rail, so please correct me on that one. Let's have a look at this one running around on the Kata Unitrack 2. Alright, last train that I got from Papadetta up in Akihabara. This is the Type 2100, and this ran the Kekkyu line. And I don't know if I actually rode on this. I rode the Kekkyu line a whole bunch. I think I went on this 2100 Type one time maybe, but I saw it a bunch. And it kind of confused me because everything that I had seen on how do you get from Haneda Airport up into Shinagawa was Kekkyu line, and all the pictures showed this train that was red with kind of the kind of cream band through it. And so when we're at Haneda Station, we've got our Passmo card, we've just come off a 13-hour flight, and trying to understand everything, first time in Tokyo. I was then looking for this train, and I was at what I thought was the right platform, what I thought was going to be the right train, and this was not what pulled up. But it turns out that Kekkyu line does actually have a couple of other types of trains on it. I think it's a 235 that runs on it. And the Kekkyu line then kind of becomes part of the Asakusa line, maybe. And so again, I was a little confused. I didn't understand how it worked. But this is one of the most common trains on the Kekkyu line. It's one of the most common ones that you'll see moving up and down between the airport. But if you do go into Haneda Airport and you're looking for this particular train to get on, don't worry if this is not the train that shows up at the platform. You are on the right place. You just get on it. It will take you to Shinagawa Station, and then it will traverse over on what I think was the Asakusa line, but it could be wrong. This is a shorter train. Again, it's 8 cars, I think. Doing the math. Yeah, 8 cars according to the back of the box. So this was the 4-car set that I got. Let's have a look at this one running around on the Kata Unitrack 2. Alright, so finally back to Hobbyland Pochi, which was another store in Akihabara. These are the 2 trains that I got there. Unfortunately, I could not find these anywhere else other than Hobbyland Pochi, and I couldn't find any of the expansion cars either, which is a little bit of a bummer, so I need to try and figure that out. But I got the E5 series Shinkansen, which is very, very cool, very different to the N700 with very, very long nose on it. It's kind of a unique look to it. And then I also got the E6 series, which is very similar. Doesn't have quite the angled duckbill nose on it. And this would have been a shorter train as well. So I'm doing quick math. The E5 is a 10-car train, and the E6 is a 7-car train. So I saw both of these moving in and out of Tokyo Station when I was up at Napori. I actually saw them a couple together a couple of times as well. So what was kind of interesting is these 2 trains can kind of couple up nose to nose, and then they'll head north out of Tokyo for a little while, and then they'll split. And I think the E5 then continues all the way up to Northern Tip. I do not know all the different station names. And then the E6 series is what then cuts more back over to the mountains along kind of the northern coast rather than the actual north part of the main island of Japan. So I got both videos of both of these. I would love to ride on them. This is the Hayabusa. This is, I think, the fastest Shinkansen that they have running. And this is the Kamachi. The E6 is Kamachi. I would love to get the expansion cars for these as they are right now. It's just a 3-car set. So maybe these won't look great on the Kata Unitrack if they have the additional cars, but I will get them at some point. I think there's just a 4-car set for this to make it 7-car, and then this has, looking on the back, yeah, this then has a 3-car set and a 4-car expansion set. So at some point I'll get expansion sets for these, for the cars, but for now let's have a look at these 2 little short stubby nose Shinkansens running around again. This one then was from Models Emon. There was a Models Emon in Akihabara, but I didn't get anything from them. They had some trends, but from what I can remember, the selection there wasn't great. And I already had gotten other trends that I'd been looking for anyway. And then there was another model trend store that I went to in Akihabara. Same thing, didn't get anything there, wasn't that good of a selection. But this one I got out in Shinjuku. I got this when I came back from Hobby Center Kado. So this is the Tokyo 5050 4000 series. 5050 series is fairly common. 4-car set. They do then have another 4-car and a 2-car expansion set that goes with this, which would make that 10-car trend in total. I forget exactly which line would have ran this in Tokyo, but I know that I was on it. But I also saw some of the other 5050 series as we were moving around in some of the other towns. But I like the look of it as well, because it's red, whereas I've got a couple of green trends like the Yamanote line and the Tokyo Ueno line. So I got the 5050 series. I don't know if I was pretending that I was going to say this was the Asakusa line, because that was red, but I don't think they actually ran the 5050 series. So I have some connection to having ridden this, I believe. I was on the 5050 series, but I can't remember the line. And then I think I was going to pretend it was the Asakusa line, because I ran up and down on that a few times, which had a red trend, but it's not this red trend. But I liked it anyway. Model Emon and Akihabara was good. Other thing about all of these, I don't know about this one, but Pop Data, Model Emon, Kado was all tax-free as well. So coming in to Japan on a tourist, not even a visa, but just on a tourist entry, you can use tax-free shopping, which I think is like 10% off. And so they want to scan your passport when they do it, and then in some cases they then stapled the receipt into the passport, and then when you go through security, as you're then leaving the country, there's like a customs desk, and so you're meant to go and tell them, hey, this is the stuff that I bought, this is my passport, and they scan the passport, and okay, whatever. So I like the look of this one. I like the fact that all the other ones had been tax-free, but I hadn't gotten this somewhere else, and so I grabbed this one at Models Emon, just kind of wrap up my time in Akihabara. So let's have a look at this one now, running around on some Kado Unitrack. Alright, so starting to get towards the end of things now. Let's see, so out in Kyoto, went to the Kado store in Kyoto, which was really, really cool. A lot smaller. They had a number of stuff that was on display though, super helpful and friendly staff that was there. I was trying to explain to them, building Great Northern Cascade Division here, was showing some photos, and back and forth in broken Japanese and English. I think we got the point across though, and they seemed to think that it was cool, so I don't know if they'll ever see this. But I did get some free swag while I was there for chatting with them and stuff. I got a sticker and I got a pen and stuff like that. Main reason why I went in was to get this 221 series, which I had already seen online anyway. I knew that I was going to ride this. Let's see, the Sagano line out in Kyoto, which kind of runs from Kyoto Station up towards the northwest. So I did this when I went out that direction. And this is a 4-car set. There's 221, I think there's a 223, which is very, very similar. But there was a number of these that were moving around in Kyoto, the 221s and the 223s. I'm not entirely sure what. I think they're radio masts or something on the front. I don't think that they're just like rear view mirrors. But very cool looking trends, very interesting looking trends. This one was a little different in that it is a special edition that was just for Kyoto Kado. And so this is already factory lighted, which is really cool, except now it means that I want to put lights into all my other ones, kind of like the Milwaukee Road Olympian Hiawatha. This is factory lighted, so it was really cool. And it also has, it's kind of hard to see, it's inside the box. I can carefully take it out. But it does have an additional pantograph, and I'm not sure which one is the additional one. But from what I could understand, broken Japanese, is that one of these is basically for winterization. It's for colder weather running, although I don't know how cold it actually gets in Kyoto. But my understanding is that the standard 221 series model from Kata doesn't have this. I don't know if it's a unique thing to the 221 series in Kyoto, but one of these additional pantographs is added specifically for that cold weather winterized running. So I really like this. I really like being on the train, and I was trying to explain to one of the guys in the store that one of the reasons why I think that this trend is really, really cool is because the seats flip direction. Like they not like spin around on the Shinkansen, or like the whole seat kind of spins around so that you don't turn the train at the end of the service. They just spin the seats around. On the 221, it just like flipped forward and backwards. And so what it meant was if you had a group of 4 people, you could flip one pair of the seats and then have like the 2 seats facing each other, the 2 pairs of seats facing each other, so a group of 4 could kind of face each other. There wasn't a table or anything, but you could face each other. But otherwise it meant all the seats would face in the direction of travel, and then when we got to the end of the line, we got back into Kyoto, and we're coming back into Kyoto, then you just lifted the seat and it would flip the seat, and so now it's facing the direction of travel when you depart Kyoto. I thought that was really cool. I hadn't seen that before. I'm sure there are other trains that do it. And I can't remember. I think the 5050 series was the first one that had LED lighting on the NAM boards. But what I liked about this somewhere, which I haven't looked carefully enough on the other ones, but it has a whole bunch of different NAM boards and number boards. I think the Shinkansen model, at least the Nozomi N700, does this. But yeah, I thought that this was a really cool trend. So let's have a look at this 221, the Kyoto Kata Center Special, lighted up running on the Kata Unitrack. Alright, we are coming down to the last 2 now. This one was another one that I got from Kato Kyoto. This was the M250 series fret. I hadn't actually seen this particular train. I had seen a bunch of the other Japan rail freight trains running and a whole bunch of these Sagawa cars. I also then got an expansion set. I got this from Popondetta Osaka, I believe. And I also got Let's Start an N Scale. This was also from Popondetta Osaka. You know, just because you never know, it might come in useful if I don't know how to do N scale. So that was fun. So this was from down in Osaka. Just a 2-car freight set. The folks down there were really nice. They also had a little layout, somewhat sizable layout. Actually, it was kind of busy. There was like 4 people that were running on it. Video with people running around it. And so I wanted to buy something from them. I think it's got slightly different couplers to this 250 series, so I don't think I can just put these in. But I thought it was cool, and it was like, I don't know, 1,500 yen. It was $10. I thought that was a cool thing from Osaka Popondetta. But this 250 series is kind of neat because it has space for one of the container cars kind of in the middle as well. So you don't just have a really long locomotive and then you kind of lose some space to be able to do anything with actual container cars. And then it's got a pair of cars on each of the flatbeds as well. So I thought that was really cool. So let's pull this one out and drop this onto some Kata Unitrack too. Alright, so at this point we're probably like an hour long with all little videos of running different stuff. So this did become really long. Some other fun things that I did get when we were at the Kyoto Trend Center. We got these little Eki Ben, which was terrible. It was awful food. It really was. They're meant to be like kids' meals. Let's see if I can open it up. And so inside you had some rice and you had what was honestly a chicken nugget, I think, and then a weird little fruit snack as well. These were pretty terrible. The only reason why we got them was because of the boxes that they came in. So I thought they were kind of fun. We did then see them in a couple of other places, and we decided not to eat those. Again, for lunch, I did also then get a couple of magazines. One was a model magazine, which was kind of really cool, and so it's got a whole bunch of different stuff in it. It's obviously all in Japanese, but it's talking about there was a kind of a big hobby show that was going on for a weekend. It talks about some of the new releases and goes over all the different models. I thought this was really cool, and also helpfully it has a bunch of different advertisers that are in it as well, so I can buy more stuff. I need to buy more stuff. And then the other one that I got was a Japan Rail kind of annual that goes over pretty much a whole bunch of different trains that they have. So I don't think it's every model of train that's running on the Japan Rail network right now, but a lot of them. And so even just looking at pretty pictures, it's kind of cool. If my Japanese gets better, I might actually understand some of this, but they do then have, it starts out a section on the Shinkansen. There we go. It talks about the N700S, the N700A, and so I thought that was... Alright, so hopefully this has been somewhat interesting. Hopefully it hasn't come across as too much of just trying to show off all the trend stuff that I bought. The reality is that because of the conversion rate from yen to US dollars and the cost of buying there in Japan and then having that tax-free status, this one, let's see, this was about 60 US dollars for a full car set. I think this one was about the same. The Shinkansen E5 and E6 series were about $50, not even $55. It was quite substantial savings by being out there. And so again, it wasn't, the focus of the trip was not to go out and buy a bunch of trends, although I did intentionally make sure that I packed my suitcase with half of it empty so that I could bring back a bunch of trends. They're all trends that I either rode on or that I saw a lot when I was doing videos and doing some photos and just watching trends as we were moving around. So I got all of them for a reason. Now I need to figure out, am I going to put DCC chips in there so that I can run them on the main Great Northern Cascade Division layout, or more likely build a small little 6-foot by 2-foot Japanese style layout with just some Kato Unitrack down. I'm not one for just buying trends for collecting them to have them sitting in boxes. I don't want to have a trend collection. I want to have a trend layout where I can play with trends and run them around and stuff like that. So I don't want these just to be left sitting in boxes and have them in a plastic tote box somewhere and they never get used. So do want to figure out something with them, and I also want to get some additional expansion cars for the E5 and the E6 series. But I think I've got a pretty good start on a little bit of a Japanese collection here if I wanted to build a little layout. I've got a bunch of Kato Unitrack, I've got DCC power and stuff hanging out, stuff like that. So wouldn't be too hard to put something together, and it might be a fun little kind of mental break from doing all the stuff on the main Great Northern layout, come back and do a little bit of work on a different layout. So maybe I'll share some of that as we go along. I think it's kind of interesting. They are very, very different types of trends. Some of the Amtrak trends, the Superliners do have this kind of, double-decker approach to the cars. But it is kind of cool, and just the variation between the different cars, the Shinkansen especially, that's something very different. And it's also then, most of the Great Northern Cascade Division layout is loosely mid-1950s through the mid-1960s, and so now coming and doing a much more modern image type of layout, you know, with the E6s or with the N700S that just came out in 2020. You know, it's much more modern trends, much more sleeker. We have very futuristic looking trends almost in terms of the N700, the E5, the E6. Yeah, so it is interesting stuff. But hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoy some of the upcoming videos that I share on, you know, going to Hobby Syndicato in Tokyo, from watching some of the different trends around Tokyo, the Kyoto Trend Museum, the Shinkansen ride from Tokyo down to Kyoto. You know, it's going to take me a little while to go through and process all of these, but hopefully you enjoy it. I am going to get back to the actual Great Northern Cascade Division layout. I promise Rich is coming out in about 2.5 weeks, something like that. Yes, I need to start ordering in some supplies so that when he's here we can make some good progress. And so I'll share some more on the main layout then, but at least for the next couple of weeks, if you're not interested in the Japanese stuff, just ignore them. We will get back to regular broadcasting soon. But hopefully you've enjoyed this one. Hopefully if you do head out to Japan yourself, some of the tips that I kind of mentioned along the way help you out a little bit. So thanks for watching, take care, and we'll be back again soon.